Ironside will not be seen tonight, so we may bring you the following special program.
Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners.
Hi, I'm Alex Ross.
The two pieces are sort of a type. They're both kind of recreations of artwork that existed in the 90s. In fact, this piece here for the Avengers is in most ways a recreation or a tribute to George Perez's poster version from the mid-90s, where he did a shot that featured in it a figure of Captain America that was very similar to what I've done here, positioning of the Vision or positioning of Hawkeye, and I believe a few other elements are very similar to that piece, and it's consciously so. I was building off that inspiration, but I kind of refitted my design to fill out bigger shots of the figures so that I was making a wider composition and getting in a lot of the same characters, but still not quite as many as what George himself did, because George's thing was always to try and get in the maximum amount of content into pieces that he did.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. I am so thrilled to be talking to Lloyd Kaufman today, the man behind Troma Films, decades of wonderful films from Toxic Avenger to Surf Nazis Must Die to Sergeant Kabuki, and just continues to churn out incredible films. Welcome, Lloyd. Thanks for doing this.
Well, thank you very much, John. Being on a balloon is incredible. It's I'm full of hot air myself, so it's very exciting for a sad old man.
Stop it. Really, Lloyd, your body of work is so incredible. And especially, God, going back to the beginning, I'm really curious because I know you started as a production assistant and a location guy that would help movies. But I'm really curious about your first credit, and that's the Peter Boyle controversial film Joe from 1970. Do you have memories of
that? Was my first 35 millimeter credit, but I made a couple of feature-length movies at Yale. The Girl Who Returned gave me a full screen credit as writer director, and it's unwatchable, but I learned a lot with my Bolex. Bolex, as your fans may know, is not a social disease, but it's a wind-up camera. But it's beautiful, Swiss camera and 16 millimeter. We charged $1 to the suckers at Yale, and nobody set their seats on fire. So valuable lesson there, John. Most people won't ask for their money back. Nobody asked for his. In those days, it was only his. There were no how it says identified females there.
Understood. Truly, that's amazing. But really, I think Joe is such an interesting film. It's pretty hardcore.
Well, Joe's a masterpiece, and John G. Avildsen. The first day I stepped on the set, I saw a shot that Avildsen was setting up, and I said to myself, "This guy knows what he's doing. I'm going to stick with him," and I did. For 50 years, and he's dead now, of course. But I dedicated hashtag, I think it's hashtag Shakespeare's Shitstone, my most recent flop, to John G. Avildsen, Stan Lee, and my stepmother, Sigrun Kaufman.
Wow, that's amazing, man, and that's a great list of
people. John was probably the most underappreciated American director, tied with George Romero, I'd say.
I appreciate, it's those kinds of observations I was hoping to get from you, Lloyd. And I agree. I mean, I'm a massive Rocky fan, the whole franchise, but were it not for that first movie, we wouldn't still be talking about the Rocky franchise. And
it wasn't for Troma, that first movie would have been all faked in LA. But John Avildsen and Sylvester Stallone wrote it for Philadelphia, and they didn't have enough money to bring everybody to Philadelphia. So the Troma team did the crew. The team from Cry Uncle. If you haven't seen Cry Uncle, it's just as good as Joe. A lot funnier. It's a satire of the genre, the film noir genre, like Cry Terror, Cry
Sure.
Uncle, and it is hilarious. It's on Troma Now, our platform right now. Cry Uncle. If your fans subscribe to Troma Now, it's the first month is absolutely free, and then it's 50 years of Troma movies, and every month 6 or 8 new movies by the James Gunns and Eli Roths and Trey Parkers of the future.
Truly, the list of filmmakers and actors that have come through Troma is amazing, and I hope you'll take the comparison the favored way that I'm saying this as it's intended. You're like Roger Corman in terms of the great careers that you
Well,
got.
we're more like Roger Corman of the underground, but he and Julie, his wife, are executive producer on our documentary Occupy Can, which is finishing up, directed by Lily Hayes Kaufman, first daughter.
Hey, that's great. Oh, that's great that the family's staying in the business. That's
Yeah,
terrific.
and Corman's executive producer, and Motorhead gave us a terrific song, and the Dwarves and all sorts of people gave donated their art to Occupy Can
That
about
sounds
the film festival. It's a great documentary for students and a cautionary tale as well. It's I guess it'll go around the film festival circuit but it's not quite finished. We have a focus group tomorrow at the New York Film Academy. We usually have 3 or 4 focus groups so that we can see where the audiences cough a lot, or if they're going to walk out, or where they're going to laugh. And we give them surveys so they can answer how do you call it, multiple choice questions. 1 out of 10, how do you rate the film? What character did you like the best? What didn't you like? Blah blah blah. Very easy, but we learn a lot from those questionnaires.
I understand, and I think that's terrific that you do that. I am curious about Troma now. When did you decide to get into the streaming business? Is there something you saw with film distribution that made you decide to do Troma now?
Well, one of my daughters, Lizbeth, who, if you've seen Troma's War, she is the infant who gets kidnapped. Um, and she also appears in hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm. And she was interning for a company called VHX, which got acquired by Vimeo. But at the time, she was right out of business school. And she said, "Hey, this looks kind of interesting. Why don't you guys set up your own platform?" And we did about 15 years ago. And it's been growing. It's great. There's always something to see. I go on Netflix. I can't find anything I want to see. The porn channels are about the only ones where you can sort of find inviting things, if you know what I mean. But Troma Now, check it out. It's great, and it's growing. It's free the first month, and then only $4.95, and nobody leaves. Again, it's small because we have no ability to advertising, but it's profitable. We don't have to pay $1 kabillion for the so-called content. We already have the art. We don't call it content; we call it art. And there's about, I think, got to be 1,000 movies and shorts and our documentaries and my music videos and many of the films like Cannibal the Musical by Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and Death by Temptation, Samuel Jackson's first movie. And they are not they're not directed by me. Mother's Day was written and directed by my brother Charles Kaufman. So a lot of the best movies, including Surf Nazis Must Die. It's just we were appreciative of the originality and the fact that these films had something to say, and Surf Nazis in particular. It was very controversial just because it had the word Nazi in 1986, I think.
Sure.
But on the other hand, it's got a woman who's the star and the hero, the action star. It's a black woman, and it's a fat woman in 1987 or 86, way ahead of the woke crowd. But it's a great movie. That's what people forget. You got to make a great movie. You can't just cast Eddie Murphy in something and put it up on Netflix. Although he's great in that blaxploitation movie he did.
Oh yeah, the Rudy Ray Moore movie.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
terrific. But
yeah.
he's in another one where he must have just been telephoning it in. The script was awful, and I watched the whole thing, but it was awful. Not his fault. He's great, but
No, I understand. And truly, Lloyd, I like I said, I was hoping for these kind of observations because the movie business is changing, and I wonder how if you feel it's impacted your art or and you've made any sort of adjustments, because obviously, again, thank God horror still sells in movie theaters.
Well, we don't really make horror films. That's the problem. We make Troma movies, which are kind of like a Cuisinart of genres. They have comedy, slapstick, horror, political, and all the ones we make have a important subtext. The Toxic Avenger was about the environment back in 1983. Class of Nukem High was about the nuclear power pollution. Sergeant Kabuki Man was about the problems that the racism in the 80s against Japanese people. But they're all comedies. They're all very entertaining. Hashtag Shakespeare's Shitstorm, which is my version of Shakespeare's The Tempest, deals with the outrageous Big Pharma and how every morning the children are watching these Today Show and whatever, and they're getting drug commercials for the past 50 years. So no wonder people are hooked on opioids and fentanyl and whatever. It's in their head. It's okay. Just take a drug. Whatever ails you, take a drug. Got a hangnail? Take a drug. You're feeling a little. Of course, I'm manic depressive. I do take some drugs, but I've been sober since January. So, and I don't feel any better. But my wife and seem somewhat sort of happy. I haven't fallen down recently.
Well, that's good. Jesus. Man, people are showing up and want to say hello. Pops is saying hello from Berlin. Great to see you live. Huge fan.
Well, thank you very, very much for showing up from Berlin. Tell the festival they ought to put a Troma movie in there. It's been this our 50th year. Actually, hashtag Shakespeare's Shitstorm fits the bill beautifully. And the New York Times gave it a very they gave it a fair review. And it's my best movie. It just, when I make a movie, it takes about 30 years for movies like Terror Firma to get popular. They're a little bit ahead of their time. They were a lot ahead of their time, about 2 generations.
No, I hear you, Lloyd, and I agree. And it's great to see. And the reason why I was able to get you on the show was our mutual friend Matthew Klickstein, who's editing that great book of interviews with you. And it is great to see that beyond the Troma fan faithful, that it seems like the film critic, intelligentsia respect what you do, how you do it, and recognize you for really the innovative filmmaker and producer you are.
Well, the big thing is that the Toxic Avenger has been reimagined into a $50 million movie. It's a great director, Macon Blair. And by the way, Matt Klickstein is a brilliant writer, and I've known him for many, many years, and I very much enjoy his books, especially the really great book he wrote about the Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, in which he gave me about 2 lines, but that's all right. No, I'm kidding. He gave Troma a pretty fair amount of.
I read that
more than we deserved.
No, not at all, Lloyd. It is great that you are part of the comic convention scene in general. And
Oh
you know,
yeah, Stan Lee and I were buddies. Stan Lee and I were buddies since I was at Yale. So
wow.
his favorite Troma movie was Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD, and Stan does pretty good, more than cameos in about 8 of our movies.
Wow.
Nice guy, awfully good guy. He loved my wife, and who is, by the way, the New York City film commissioner. In fact, she's in charge of all the media in New York City: music, art, dancing, gaming, all that stuff is Pat Swinney Kaufman. So doesn't
That's
do me
amazing.
any good, but what are you going to do?
It doesn't make it easier to shoot in New York with your wife in that job.
Well, she's just been appointed, but it will be a lot easier for everybody once she she's only been in about 3 months, and there's been a strike, but she's made movies. She was one of the producers. She was New York State Film Commissioner and created the giant New York tax incentive, and as a result, they're still building studios in New York State, New York City. There've been about 20 new studios and sound stages built since 1992 when she began, and she's dedicating one tonight in Sunnyside, Queens. She's giving a speech or a proclamation or something. So she's been involved in the making of movies, and usually these commissioners are political appointees, but she knows the filmmakers' needs, and not just Troma, but on the bigger movies. She was on. She worked on Rocky. She hung around Saturday Night Fever. And those weren't huge movies, but she certainly knows what the filmmakers need and how to help them. And how to, especially on location, which is what New York offers.
I'm curious. You mentioned Saturday Night Fever, and again, in your capacity as someone that found locations, do you have any great stories of that production?
Well, I hated the job. I did get a half-screen credit, which was in my contract. I think the best story is that I worked for very little money in exchange for a half-screen credit, because I had to get when you're shooting on location, the DP needs not just the interior or exteriors, but he wants to put lights on the neighboring roofs. Where are you going to put those honey wagons? Where are you going to park the trucks? In Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, it's a big deal. I was like running for Congress, and it was only about $1 million. I think the budget was $1 million or $2 million, was very little.
Yeah.
So I busted my ass and did a great job. And then in pre-production, I had a feeling that I was going to get fucked. So I called up Paramount and asked for the post-production office. And the fucker there told me, "Oh, no, we don't give, you're a location executive. You don't get half-screen credit." And luckily, I was buddies with Robert Stigwood, who understood what I did. Travolta, too, gave me a silver keychain at the end.
Oh, wow.
And Stigwood's nephew told the production fuck that give Lloyd his budget, give Lloyd his half-screen credit, or you're going to have an angry porcupine on your hands. But that's what happens in the mainstream. That everything. It's Hollywood rules. They sign contracts, they don't mean it. And they go back on them. It's a disgusting business. On the other hand, a small number of the elite are the best people in the world. James Gunn, Stan Lee, and Eli Roth. They're wonderful. Trey Parker is a prince. He's the nicest. Matt Stone also. They're great, lovely people.
Well, again, they've benefited from your support. I know that among James Gunn's movies he made with you were Super. I'm a big fan of that movie. Certainly a big fan of Trey's movie, Cannibal the Musical, which
wait a minute, Trey Parker or James Gunn?
Well, James, I know did Super.
We did Romeo and Juliet, and he worked for us for a couple of years, and we shot. I think it was a TV show called Tromaville Cafe. It was very funny, and it broke the fourth wall. James played the angry boom man. So we actually would go to the crew from time to time, and he was like the nastiest angry boom man. But he wrote quite a number of skits for us. It was like a little Troma Saturday Night Live. Very funny stuff.
And is that on Troma Vision? Is that on your?
I'm not sure. I have to. I don't know. It was a long time ago. Who knows if it's still around? But we must have it somewhere. Anyway, I know that the hamster. He wrote a piece about hamsters and their babies. It's hilarious. And Mike Shapiro, who just did animation for Occupy Can. I mean, these people, the Troma people stay with us. They all go on to, getting real successful, but they still come back and help us out because we have no money and no money to advertise. So they're very, very nice. We just did an Audible version of the first book that I wrote, which James Gunn wrote, and I just sent him the press release, and he approved it instantaneously, no waiting around. He's a great guy. He's a really cool guy. Totally decent guy, 100%.
Did you do the narration for your Audible book?
Well, someone who sounds like me, someone who sounds very much like me. Might have been Mel Brooks, or it might have been AI. I'm not sure. But I'll tell you something. It took longer for the AI to get fixed up than I could have just read the book. It's only 350 pages. All I need to know about filmmaking, I learned from The Toxic Avenger. But the AI, a lot of it, the AI didn't get. It couldn't say the word trauma, and a lot of my jokes were not comprehensible to AI, whoever they were.
What do you think of AI? Certainly, that's a huge controversy in conventional Hollywood right now. How do you see it?
I'd say it's. I don't know if you remember Napster. But,
Sure.
What's wrong with some fat kids in the basement exchanging music or exchanging my videos? As long as they don't charge for it, hey, people can use, for the most part, as long as they're not charging people for it. Like there's a lot of fan art with me in it. And I know there's been a fair amount of AI already, and definitely Toxic Avenger, huge amounts of fan art. There were fan art documentaries. What the hell? Why not? I don't get it. Maybe, I really don't get it. In fact, there are some big rock stars who have said, hey, you can certainly use AI with me. And, I guess they don't want people to make money off it, but that's not why fans do it,
I understand. Absolutely. Going back to the wave of success you had in the 80s, timing is everything. And it seems to me that the bulk of Troma, once it really was on its feet, really benefited from the VCR era of
boy, did we benefit. We got into VHS way ahead of anybody. And except for the porn, the porn's always, the porno always, they're always the first, how do you say it? The first adapters.
Yeah, the pioneers. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
We got into DVD so early that people didn't have the players. But eventually we had about 2 or 3 years where the majors had not yet gotten in. And that's the truth with the VHS. The majors use the Jack Valenti, his soul not rest. He, the head of the rating board and other things, he, thought that VHS would be the end of copyright law, and that we'd be inundated with pornography and child porn and all that stuff. And they were suing people and God knows what else. But we saw we got into it immediately and did very well. Again, eventually it became a one company industry, namely Blockbuster, owned by Viacom, who did own Paramount.
Yes.
And we were basically blacklisted from that. So, that's what they end up doing. they try to fuck up, excuse my language, they try to throw a monkey wrench in the new technology until they can take it over. And so a lot, these platforms, same thing. It's been quite a while. But, Warner Brothers just started a platform. Same with Paramount. What are they waiting for? But these suits are so afraid of losing their job, and the studio heads. I think the average studio head changes job in 18 months, that kind of stuff. So everybody's scared. They're scared. And the Cannibal the Musical fell into our hands. Trey Parker and Matt Stone came to us first because they were Troma fans. But we told them, look, we can help you finish your movie, but we don't have a lot of money just to give you up front. So go to the big companies and they're rich, and it's a wonderful film. It's going to be a wonderful film. It was almost finished. The end, the post production and
Sure.
I guess printing, and also we had them create a more exciting opening. Again, I had nothing to do with it artistically, but it is more Troma-ish, more Monty Python kind of stuff. And but we were also the last stop on the train. None of these idiots in the mainstream understood that Trey and Matt are geniuses. And eventually they got Cannibal the Musical, got them into, once it was finished and doing well, got them into Comedy Central. And of course, I think they just got an $800 million contract.
No, I hear you, man. Were you ever approached by, or did you go to the major studios to try to make movies with them, either before or during Troma's success?
Only sometimes we were asked. Sometimes I remember going out to Spielberg's office, and they wanted to know what we were doing. And I think we were finishing up Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD. I gave him, I told him about it, and then I told him what was coming up in the future. But there were people there taking notes. The same happens with. I stopped doing it. The last time I did it was with they're part of Warner's, I think. I can't remember the name, but
Spielberg's company, Amblin.
No, that was a long time ago. But
I
remember it because the guy from Jurassic Park was sitting in the waiting room also. Goldblum.
Okay, yeah.
And then, but more recently, I just can't remember the name of the company, but a big one, and they had about 6 people sitting around the table and taking notes. But we're going to call you. This is so exciting. We blah, 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 blah. And then nothing. Just a waste of time. So no need to do that. For the most part, we've stuck to being Troma, and as Woody Allen says, success is just 88% in just showing up.
Showing up, absolutely.
Of course, he's maybe fucking his daughter, but
right. Lloyd, by the way, candor is welcome. You can swear as much as you want.
Oh, never. I went to Yale University. We don't. I've read a lot of books. I don't need to use 4-letter words.
Whatever.
As Cole Porter says, most authors who knew better now use 4-letter words. In a great song, one of his.
Was that Anything Goes? Was that in Anything Goes?
Yes, Anything Goes. That's exactly it. Anything Goes. In olden days, that's in olden days of stocking, shocking now. Goodness knows anything goes.
Classic, absolutely, man.
In olden days, good authors who know better now only use 4-letter words. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Anyway,
I love it.
He's the greatest. He was the greatest. He went to Yale.
That's awesome. I didn't know he went to Yale.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Pops wants you to know, I remember Troma movies were really hard to come by in Berlin. Had to go really off cinema rental stores that had weird movies. Well, yeah, man, you're a cult film guru, man. I mean, that's kind of what Troma is all about, man. Out here, Whiskey LaRue says, "Love you, Lloyd."
Oh, thank you very, very much. I love you. Well, we're deep. We've always been deep in the reeds of the underground, and it's only thanks to our worldwide fan base that was still around, and they've supported us. And when we do something, when I show hashtag Shakespeare's Shitstorm, there's again, I only get 1 or 2 nights of an engagement. But although in New York we had 2 weeks, the same in LA. Usually the theater's full, jam packed. But again, the theaters, they want a lot of advertising and stars, and I'm hoping that the Toxic Avenger reimagining, that Sony will bring it out and take a shot with it, because it's excellent. It's better than the original Toxic Avenger, and it's all thanks to Macon Blair and Legendary financed the movie, and they produced movies like Pacific Rim, which I think was 200 million, and Kong versus Godzilla, which I think was 400 million or something. Anyway, the huge movies. So they took a big risk, not with Toxie so much, but with Macon Blair, because he's only directed 1 movie, but he's just the right guy. He loves Troma. He knows more about Troma than I do, and he wrote a great movie and he directed a great movie. Totally different from my Toxie, but yet lots of callbacks, lots of Troma love within. Peter Dinklage plays the Toxic Avenger.
So I heard, yes.
That's one slightly different element of the movie from my Toxic Avenger.
Understood. Ryan is wondering if you have more stories about James Gunn than what we've already talked about.
Stories. Well, we met in prison, of course. I was his bitch, and he spent all his cigarette money on me. Wait a minute. No, that's not true. Not true. No, well, on Romeo and Juliet, we had a great time together. He was the co-director as well as the writer, although I was very much a participant in the writing, and he was very much a participant in the directing. No, we had a pretty good time. Jane Jensen, who plays Juliet, had to. She had a dream where she's pregnant, and Tromie comes in and opens up her stomach with his hand, sort of pries it open. And we had put in there popcorn, some rats, but they're nice rats, the hooded rats, and mealy worms.
Ew.
But the mealy worms somehow got into her underwear, and
God.
she freaked out. She's the nicest person in the. She did such a great job with Romeo and Juliet, but she really went into another world. And James had, James, I was, of course, like, in my head, she was on her way to where Frances Farmer went. You know who Frances Farmer was? The lobotomies and all that. I thought Jane would be in one of those homes in a rocking chair. So I was paralyzed. But James rose to the issue, hugged her. She was on a bed. He hugged her and calmed her down. And I think we might have. I think she went back to shooting, but that was probably one of the most horrendous events of my film career.
Wow.
Just because poor Jane suffered so much, and we, it was just something that nobody knew was going to happen. So there's a lesson, children. Always test whatever you're going to do. Test it, and film it. Since then, we've tested every special effect and we make the crew film all those, whatever it is, and we're heavy into special effects. I think we did do it for most of them in Tromeo, but now it's a must. Every kind of prosthetics and all that. Right now, we're shooting Caterkiller, and there's a big. Eventually, there's a giant. Caterpillar, and I made the guy wearing it and the director. I'm only producing it. Practice with it, so we don't waste time on set with 60 people standing around waiting, and the guy wearing the the costume requires some animatronics and also make sure the goddamn thing fits. It's a huge. It's not a costume. It's a big. It's like one of those Macy's Day creatures.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Fiberglass and all that kind of stuff.
So you use a combination of CGI and practical effects.
Mostly practical. Very in hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm. We did use more CGI than I've ever used, and it's great. We shot 8 days in Albania, and that was mainly where we used the CGI. We had we shot with rare Albanian trained whales. In fact, they are trained to jump over a boat and defecate, and their duty has corn in it. But we had to enhance some of the whales in the water with CGI.
Wow.
And there's some other CGI too. There's a great joke with there's a theme about, we have some. It's also, aside from being dealing with Big Pharma, it deals with the snowflakes, and one of the evil women is talks about the shattering the glass ceiling, and at the end of it, she's shattered by the glass ceiling, so to speak. And there's a beautiful, it's art. It's just gorgeous. It's all different colors, and I can't remember the gentleman who did it, but again, another big time Hollywood guy who just is a Troma fan, and he did it for nothing.
Wow, that's terrific. I have a couple pre-written questions on my Patreon page, and Steve, I'm glad you mentioned that story about Romeo and Juliet. He was wondering if you have any stories about the making of Terra Firma.
Right off the bat, Lemmy and I were friends since Romeo and Juliet. He made the mistake of turning up in one of our offices at something called American Film Market. And, I'm a fan. And just suddenly there's Lemmy sitting there, and he was
Motorhead.
A little bit, Motorhead.
Yeah, yeah.
A little bit, not, he was never, I can't say I ever saw smiling a lot, but he was Lemmy, pretending to be grouchy and drunk and all that, when he really, I don't think really was. But anyway, on Terra Firma, he had a bigger part, but we were shooting in the one place that would give us an escalator. We had to have Joe Flyshaker, our 500-pound action hero, ground up in a escalator. And very hard to get an escalator for free, but we did get one through the Alliance Française. But Lemmy came and immediately started smoking. And of course, we get kicked out if there's people smoking, and the smoke alarms will go off. And then he wanted the air conditioner turned on, which of course the sound man would freak out and have a heart attack. So Lemmy and I had a fight, and he stormed off the set. I think he was at the height of his druggy stage. But we sent the behind-the-scenes team behind him to stay with him the rest of the day. And he went to a radio station to do an interview where he said, "I'm through with Troma. That's no more Troma, no more Troma." But we made up, and there is one short scene with Lemmy, and he gets a huge laugh, but it was a bigger part. But at the end of Terra Firma, he came back, and he did a wonderful public service announcement with Trey Parker and Matt Stone. This is well after Comedy Central, after South Park. But they were nice enough to do a PSA about hermaphrodites. And Lemmy was the on-camera man, and Trey and Matt were the visuals.
Wow!
And it's very, very funny. It's hilarious. The movie has a hermaphrodite theme to it, at Terra Firma, as you probably know. So at the end, we felt we ought to do something to, help hermaphrodites.
Sure. No, that again, like you said, and truly, Lloyd, the work speaks for itself. You were always ahead of the curve of a lot of social issues, and not afraid of tackling them. And that's great because, there's your films are a lot of fun, but there is this almost subversive kind of message in a lot of your movies. That I
Yes,
think are very positive and
very important. Yeah, most of our films, even Sugar Cookies, back in 1971, which I wrote, I didn't direct it. It stars Mary Warrenov and Lynn Lowry and a bunch of the Warhol people, superstars. But it was a lesbian version of Vertigo. I mean,
wow.
now every single advertisement for a movie, they have a shot of two women just about to kiss, and then it
Sure.
cuts. Every trailer, but we're in 2023. It's a little late for that. Nobody's going to be too excited by that. By the way, Return to Nukem High and the second half of it. It's a 2-volume movie, and Return to Nukem High deals with bullying and bullying lesbians, but it's a very good. It's the fourth and fifth iteration of the class of Nukem High, and they're very, very funny. They're both on Blu-ray, but that was a while back. Now they're on Troma now, and people love them. Especially the second volume is totally insane, absolutely insane. And my wife has the commissioner has one of the funniest parts of it. She comes, we break the fourth wall, and she bursts into the editing room and starts, how do you say it, beating on me. And I try to blame it on the editor. It's very funny. The movie's great. Catherine Cochran is a star, and she recently broke out with Terrifier, which, as you know, is a huge hit. And she's in a lot of big movies now. So most of the people that suffer with us, it's usually their first movie. Everybody on #Shakespeare Shitstorm was their first movie. Everybody from the PAs to the director of photography to the stars, all were first timers, and they were all great. They were devoted, and we had 18-hour days, and I can't describe what what they were put through, but safety, always safe, but so devoted, and the actor persons, we call them actor persons, John. We don't like to use the word extras, because on a professional set, extras are, they eat different food, and they're demeaned, and they're second class.
Yeah.
So everybody, whether the person's playing the Toxic Avenger or just a background person, everybody's an actor person, and the Toxic Avenger should carry his own suitcase to the hotel room in which 8 people are staying with him.
That's great.
But people look back on the Troma experience for Return to Nukem High and Return to Nukem High. We lived in a funeral home up in Niagara Falls.
Wow.
And basically we had 60 people on air mattresses sleeping. We had a men's dormitory, a woman's dormitory, and then the 2 lead cis-identified females had a bedroom. They each had beds, and I think there was 1 shower for everybody. So,
oh my God.
like cheese, it was a great place to be.
That's fantastic, man. No, and again, you're giving a lot of these people their first shot.
I meant the aroma of cheese. The swamp ass, we call it.
I understand.
But I tell you, the people that do work on a Troma movie, they always look back on it with. I mean, we've got people on Occupy Canned who worked for us 35 years ago. I mean, and the editor, the guy who's doing the graphics, or he's doing something major on it. Mike Shapiro, who did the animation. The scoring, we have a score done by a guy who I've known for 20 years, with an orchestra. Oh, no, that was Shakespeare Shitstorm. #Shakespeare Shitstorm. We have a full orchestral score done for nothing by a guy who I've known for many years, who's an avid Troma fan and an unbelievably nice guy, Philippe Mello. Great.
That's cool. Ryan has a question.
Yes, Ryan.
He loves that there are so many Troma films on Amazon Prime. Do you plan to add more movies to the free streaming services anytime soon, like Tubi or Freevee, these streamers that have commercials within,
Well,
within the movie.
I'm mainly in charge of making the money-losing movies, Ryan. So we have Michael Hers, my partner of 50 years, usually makes whatever the deals are. I think we have some movies on Tubi.
I'm sure you do.
And I think we're creating a fast channel, uh, and we're also we've got a bunch of movies on Paramount Plus and a few other of the, but Troma Now, everything's on Troma Now, and much better rendition, much better. You get the extras, you get the subtitles in English, you get all that stuff.
I think that's great, Lloyd, that you do not only put the movies and the TV shows on there, but you are putting your bonus content, your music videos, as you said. That's great. I'm really glad you're doing that.
Oh, the behind the scenes documentaries on, for example, Poultry Guys, Night of the Chicken Dead. It's called Poultry in Motion. Truth is Stranger Than Chicken. We make everybody from then on, anyone who's going to work for us in any capacity is required to view Poultry in Motion, and then they have absolutely no excuse for pussying out. I shouldn't use a word like pussy.
You could, again, you got it.
The commissioner has just entered the. There she is. Hold it.
Oh, hi, Mr. Kaufman. How do you do?
You see her?
Hi.
She's
Lovely
very
to see
beautiful.
Oh, hardly. That's why I don't want to be seen. I don't look.
You're beautiful. You're a beautiful
Absolutely.
woman.
Congratulations on the position with the New York.
John is congratulating you on being a commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Commissioner says thank you. She just got home from work. You can see she gets up at 7 a.m. She does have a car and driver, so that's kind of cool.
Well, that's all right. That's
doesn't have to take the subway to work.
Honestly, that's wonderful that she has that job, and it's great that you're chugging along, man. I saw on your IMDb page that there was at least 6 movies still to come in the next year or so.
Well, I'm producing right now. We're shooting up in upstate New York, and we've started a pre-production in California. We're finishing up a movie that we filmed in Tennessee by a young protege, and then there's another one, Sweet Meats, that's the filming is done, but now post-production. A comedian wrote it named Ricky Glore, and he filmed in the Ohio, Kentucky area, and so I'm busy. I've been crazy busy. And then I'm working on my script that I'm hoping I got to get some money. These younger people can make movies for 50,000. I need about 500,000. And my films have a lot more. They're much more ambitious in terms of just the look of them.
Sure. No, I can appreciate that. Well, now you're answering the next question I have from one of my patrons. Tom Kelly wants to know. He'd love to hear what you feel the most challenging films were to make. Your production and films all had their moments, but what's the one film that stands out like teeth having, pulling teeth and a difficult?
Well, none of them was like pulling teeth. You can watch Poultry in Motion, and you can see how difficult it is to make a movie. And it's hilarious. It's kind of sad. We've got people starting to punch, have a fist fight. We've got 2 different wedding proposals, marriage proposals on camera. We slept in a vacant church. That was interesting in itself because Poultrygeist is about a fast food. It's an anti-fast food.
Oh, yeah.
We had an empty McDonald's place that we had to fix the roof and put in plumbing and electricity. But we made an American Chicken Bunker, which was had war and fast food as its theme, and a chicken. But the stipulation by the real estate owner was that no nudity could be in the McDonald's. So we had, but it was okay for us to shoot the nudity in the vacant church. So we built sets in the church where we had all the nudity, and the one lesbian scene is there's one pretty graphic lesbian scene in the church, and
Wow.
but we built, we built a section of the McDonald's, which the American chicken bunker, to match the piece that, we built a piece of
Sure.
the counter and the cash registers and all that, and so nobody could tell. It was seamless.
Movie magic, Lloyd. And again,
Well, also just ironic that the church didn't care that.
yeah, but
we had
McDonald's
the
did.
nudity.
Yeah, but McDonald's did.
Well,
That
it
is-
wasn't McDonald's. It was just a guy who owned a vacant McDonald's. It was,
Oh.
Upstate in Buffalo, people are conservative. So
Well, what are you going to do? But again, Lloyd, your ability to stretch a dollar and your 50 plus years of movie making, that's why. And now, I had a question and I can't find it right now, but someone had asked, do you feel, and I think I know the answer to this in your case, do you feel that independent filmmakers can come in? Would it be possible for, beyond making a movie or whatever, they were wondering if another Troma-like studio could exist in today's film and TV environment?
well, I was saying that I think it's impossible to create a Troma in this environment of oligopoly or almost monopoly. But the terms of the contract are such that I don't see how the studios, I mean, Warner's, and go look at the stock of Warner and Paramount, Disney, they're in the toilet, and
Yep.
they can't, and that's before the strike, and now they've got to pay out huge amounts. How are they going to make $200 million movies and hope to come out? I think they're going to have to hire younger independent filmmakers who can make $2 million look like 25 million. And there are so many of them around. Macon Blair, he's the perfect one. He can do it. Jesus, for $2 million. Check out hashtag Shakespeare. Well, I'm too old, but check out hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm. $500,000. But if they did it in the mainstream, it would be $30 million. No question about it.
I so hear you.
Absolutely,
Yes.
no question about it. By the way, I don't know if you've seen it because it's fairly recent, but if you email me, I'll be happy to send you a link to
Oh, thanks, man.
hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm.
Oh, please. I absolutely will email you. I'll
Well,
take you up on that.
email me because I'll forget this whole
No
interview.
problem. Well, and hopefully when the Toxie reboot with Dinklage comes out, you might come back for another conversation, perhaps.
I'll come back anytime. It's very interesting. You're well prepared. You clearly love movies, and you know a lot about Troma, and very appreciative. And
Well-
I know you have a lot of Troma's students. You have a lot of filmmaking students. I've written 7 books, 5 of which are make your own damn movie, produce your own damn movie, sell your own damn movie. And my memoir, which James Gunn wrote, it talks a lot about how we broke in. So there's you ought to read my books. But these documentaries we've done, they're each about 90 minutes. Citizen Toxie has one. Terra Firma has one. The new one for hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm. Return to Nukem High has one. 2 girls and 1 duck. Wonderful document. They're great. They're better than a year of film school. I guarantee you. Anyone who sees them, I defy them, using the wrong pronoun, to say I'm not speaking the truth.
That's great that you're willing to give back and give that kind of information. What do you think of studios like A24 and Blumhouse, who seem to be able to make money-making movies on a shoestring compared to the big oligarchs of,
when you say shoestring, there's still, Blumhouse is doing what, $2 or $3, $4 million movies. They got a hot hand, and they've made some very good ones. A24 is consistently good. They're terrific. But those are not shoestring movies. They've got major stars, and I'm sure they're upwards of, they got to be over 10 million. I'm sure they're like 30 million. But I mean, those 50 to 200 million dollar movies, I don't think you're going to see stars making $20 million for one movie. Studios are going to tighten their belts. They'll have to, or they make fewer
Right.
movies. Which one way or the other, I think the world is going to be a lot easier for independent filmmakers. I think the majors are going to start looking for filmmakers who can work with stars who are willing to work for 6 million instead of 60 million or whatever, and can make a $2 million movie look like 25 million, which there are plenty of them out there.
Agreed. And also,
So I think it will be a good world for the independents. The only problem is they may be, they may be a lot of time. Often the first time not first time director, but the director with the studio has a big hit, and then Orson Welles was ruined by the suits in the studios. They
yes,
wouldn't give him freedom. But I do believe that there'll be many independent filmmakers who've had films at Sundance that aren't too bad, that should have I think Ty West is one that probably should benefit greatly from the new age.
I wonder what you think, because I have to say, as an observer, I find it ridiculous when Warner Brothers will put out Man of Steel and they're like, oh, it only made $700 million. Or the Marvel movies are certainly the latest Marvel movies are certainly having that issue. And it's this idea that a movie has to make $1 billion. $1 billion. My God, that's just insane to me. And it's an unrealistic expectation, comparing a franchise like Star Wars that has 45 years of proof. So even when they make a lousy movie, for the most part, it's going to do well. But I love superhero movies, but that said, I think there's a ridiculous expectation on the studio's part. Your thoughts?
I don't think they have to spend as much, but I do believe that James Gunn's Man of Steel, if that's the title, will be a huge success. There's no question about it. He's the only one who can do it, I think, these days.
I
And
agree.
he's done it every time.
Yes, yeah.
Guardians of 1 and Guardians 3
Yep.
and 2 are brilliant.
Suicide Squad was great.
Second one was good. His Suicide was great.
Yes. Yes.
And I think, you look at his early movies. Super is very good. Very, very, very good. I'm in most of his movies.
Yeah, I saw that. That's fantastic. I had to look for you now on rewatches and stuff. All right, listen, you've been great. Real fast, maybe a last question here. What's probably impossible to replicate is the look of locations that were in the classics like Combat Shock, Story of a Junkie, Old New York, and New Jersey. He loves those films that you made as time capsules.
Well, Combat Shock is a masterpiece, but again, it took 25 years to break even. It's the darkest film ever made, and it deals with Vietnam veteran and PTSD. And Staten Island was used as Vietnam, although we bought some a very expensive, probably we bought some very expensive opening scenes from Grimberg, or one of the stock footage to show people bombing and all that. But all the rest of them, all the Vietnam scenes were shot in Staten Island.
Wow!
And it's a wonderful. It's the darkest thing you'll ever see. What was the Story of a Junkie's all location, and it's kind of a nice souvenir of whatever that the Alphabet Avenues in New York, which are now the big gringo sign. He was a junkie who acted in this movie. It's a terrific movie. I can take no credit for it other than we distributed it when nobody else would. But it's a masterpiece. But there used to be a big gringo, I guess it was graffiti, a giant sign in the Lower East Side, and now it's a Starbucks sign. There's been a big change down there. But Blood-Sucking Freaks and Story of a Junkie and Cry Uncle. Well, not so much Cry Uncle, but most of the movies. Well, again, all Avildsen's movies are on location. So, and all the movies I shoot are on location. So wherever we are, it's a great time capsule.
Well, I got to say, as we're wrapping up, first of all, I think you've given a lot of people reasons to subscribe to Troma Now. And
thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely, man. And no, again, everybody, first month free, $4.99 a month afterwards, one of the more affordable streamers out there. And it's everything that Troma does is put up there, including the behind the scenes stuff, the documentaries. I think
I've subscribed. I watch the new every month. We put up several new movies, and they're great. They're wonderful. We have great curation, and you can spend. You'll always find something. Whether you like the homemade Troma movies or movies made by other directors or other studios, you'll have a great time, and you're supporting the last of the independent studios, the longest running independent studio in history, 50 years.
That's great, man.
It's a miracle.
Well, and good luck with Shakespeare Shitstorm, which is finally out.
Hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm.
Pardon me, hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm. And what is the documentary, Khan?
Occupy Can.
Occupy Can. That's
it shows how we take our stars and people who work for Troma to the Cannes Film Festival, and how we do street theater and how we are able to sell movies without. It still costs at least $100,000 for us to do that, but majors spend $100,000 on one billboard. They spend $500,000 on one party. So anyway, it's a very good. It's a lot of fun. Keep an eye out for it. I don't know if it also chronicles how we've been policed. We haven't been to Cannes since. After 50 years, we were basically kicked out of Cannes Film Festival. 50 years going
some
there.
People, man. I'm sorry to hear that. Is Occupy Cannes on Troma now, or is it still playing?
No, it's we're finishing it. It's not.
Oh, you're finishing it.
We're having focus groups now, and we're adjusting the movie, and there's still sound design and sound mixing and things of that ilk to do.
And hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm, is that on Troma now, or is that?
No. That's still in theaters. One by one. Yeah. And there's a lot of theaters that want to play it, but usually, very often, I have to go with the, like Willie Loman of Death of a Salesman.
I was just, I was. Go ahead. No.
And we're making the 4K. We're making a 4K. Just as we did for the 4 Toxic Avenger movies, there is a 4K box for hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm that will come out maybe 6 months from now. It takes we've got all the elements, but it takes about 6 months to do all the grinding.
Put it all together. No, I understand. Lloyd, honestly, I feel for you that you have to do the Willie Loman city by city thing with your movies. But again, you've been doing it forever, so you know the game.
It's good to stay in the trenches, because the fans. You learn a lot from the fans too. They teach us. Stan Lee always did that to the end at these. Say we're going to San Diego Comic-Con for 35 years. He was always there until the end in the whatever booth, Marvel, right till the end. And I think that's a big part of why he stayed Stan Lee. He became Stan Lee. He listened to listened to the fans, put his ear to the ground. All that.
Absolutely.
Stuff.
Are you coming to Chicago anytime soon? That's my town.
Oh, Chicago. Well, tell that those bloody guys at the. They used to play all our movies, but recently, the last few years, they've refused. It's a very good theater. Music Box.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they should play hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm. I'll come out there.
Yeah.
I think they think the last I heard, they told the guy who represented us in Chicago, that somebody on our team was rude to them, to management. But we're the nicest people in the world. Nobody works for us as rude. So maybe a fan did something, or if that's true, but that could just be rumor. Who knows? But we have a Troma weekend. It'd be great. They'll be full. Believe me. Hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm fills the house.
Well, and it is a great
And then
theater.
you could moderate. You moderate the Q&A, and
it would be my honor.
yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. It'd be great.
It would genuinely, I will speak to my film critic friends and see if we can make something happen with you for Music Box. That would be great.
Did you ever run into a guy named Fred Camper in Chicago?
No,
he reviews kind of more experimental films. But
okay.
Very
you know,
erudite.
I'm an old Chicago radio broadcaster.
Oh, nice.
I worked for CBS for many years, other big companies here in Chicago, always local. But yeah, that's kind of my entree to doing what I'm currently doing now with Word Balloon, for example, this show.
Terrific. Well, congratulations to you, John, and thank you for making this so much fun. And I'll do my best. Again, I have no control over the reimagining of Toxic Avenger, but I'm sure I can go back on, and maybe I can get Macon Blair. We'll go on together, or Kevin Bacon is a big fan, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, man. And regardless, no, and I mean, you're cranking out Troma stuff. Doesn't have to be the reboot. That just seemed to be an easy one. But
the Kill Dolly Kill by Heidi Moore just premiered in the same festival, Fantastic Fest, that the Toxie movie premiered in, and again, full house. Didn't have 5 screens like Toxic Avenger, but it was a full house. It's a drag horror comedy musical, and it's again brilliant. It's wonderful.
That's
the songs are great. It's not like Stephen Sondheim where you don't, what the hell are the tunes? These have real tunes and a lot of fun, and there'll be an album.
That sounds great. Truly, Lloyd, great meeting you. Long time admirer.
Thanks, John.
You please come back in a few months, and we'll do it again.
So we'll meet in Chicago.
That'd be wonderful, man. Lloyd Kaufman, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.